just going to close this out. Is that all right? Or just so that it's not?
If you're done with it, I'm done with it.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, we can next call Paulette. Paulette. You're it.
Right this way, ma'am.
Ma'am, good afternoon to you. Just watch your step as you come forward. You need a glass of water. Let us know. Mr. Gray will certainly help you out in that regard.
Thank you.
Scoop full.
That said, Ms. Michelle, you may inquire. You're ready.
Water.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you could start by just introducing yourself to the jury, please.
My name is Paulette.
And Ms. Violette, can you please tell us how you know Mr. Johnathan Quiles?
Johnathan is my nephew/son.
And ma'am, you've known him his whole life?
His whole life.
And can you tell me how what the relation is as far as you being his aunt? Who are you related to in his family?
I am his mother's youngest sister, his late mother.
Okay. Ma'am, can you tell us a little bit about Mr. Quiles' relationship with his mom first?
Oh my God. They had such a special bond. He loved her. He was crazy about his mother. He loved everything about his mother. His mother was an amazing woman to him.
What about his relationship with his father?
That was rocky. For a long time, it was rocky. There was a lot of sadness there. But when he got older, he forgave him. They worked on a relationship together, and everything was okay. Nothing further after that. They just mend whatever was broken, and he visited them. He stood with them a couple of months, I believe, and then he went back home.
Okay. As far as their relationship currently, let me start with his mom first. You mentioned his late mother. Mm-hmm. Tell me about when she passed or that situation.
She had cancer.
Okay. And when did she pass?
She passed 13 years ago in December.
And how did Mr. Quiles take that?
Oh, that was really hard for him. Him and his mother were inseparable. He was her caretaker.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You were saying
he was her caretaker.
And did they live together during that time period?
I believe he was living with her at her first diagnosis, and then he took care of her, and then later she was supposed to be in remission, so he tried to do his own thing, but she was really never in remission. She was diagnosed incorrectly, so then he had to come back and take care of her.
And then during that time, was he the sole caretaker of his mother when she was ill?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that it was rough after she passed?
It was rough.
During that time period, what was his relationship like with his brother?
I don't know if their relationship was, I want to say was distant. I'll just say that it was distant. I don't remember them being close at that time.
Have you ever known them to be close while growing up?
Not necessarily growing up. I think their closeness came about recently, and I guess maturity brought them back together, and they were able to mend some things and hold on to a good relationship.
Earlier in life, did you know Mr. Quiles and his brother to have like a conflictual type of relationship?
Yes.
Can Can you tell me about, I guess you told me a little bit about his reconciliation with his father. How do you feel that relationship has affected Mr. Quiles?
John is very forgiving, and when he made the decision to forgive his father, it was pure. And he did forgive him. They worked on a relationship, and like I said, he came and lived with them for a couple of months. And then he went back home. But I don't know if it made up for everything, but it was the beginning of
Today.
Well, it was recently before he got arrested. So I'm not sure if they have a relationship right now.
Right. What else can you tell us about John's upbringing, his background?
John had a great upbringing. As you all know, my sister was a single parent. She worked really hard to provide him the things that he needed. She was adamant about education. She had 3 degrees before she passed. He chose not to go to school, and we know why. But there was nothing she wouldn't do for him, or for Joseph, for that matter, for both of her kids. But her and John had a special bond, a really special bond.
And during their upbringing, did John's mother work quite a bit?
She did. She went to school and she worked.
As far as you mentioned about his education, that he chose not to go, and that was, I'm just using your words. Tell us about what you know of his education.
He did up to the 7th grade. Learning was not a disadvantage for him. He was very smart. He just did not want to go to school. There was nothing that he couldn't do. He comprehended well. He self-educated himself in a lot of things. So it wasn't that, I don't know if he just couldn't handle, or he chose to work for his little children that he had at that time. But he was a really brilliant young man at a young age.
And so tell us about his family. You said that he had children at a young age.
He did have children at a young age. He had a boy and a girl. They were back to back. I think they're like a year and a half apart. I believe his first child was born at 15 or 16. And he worked really hard to provide for them.
And as far as his other children that came later, what do you know about his relationship like as a father to them?
He's a great father to them. He's always been a great father to his kids.
And does he maintain, as best he can, a relationship with them to this day?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about you and Mr. Quiles' relationship?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Your relationship with Mr. Quiles.
We instantly bond at birth. When he was born, he was no longer my sister's child. That was my child. We had a special bond when he was born. I took him everywhere I went. We did everything together. As he got older, I moved. I was married to a military man that traveled a lot, so I wasn't with him as often, but he'd come every duty station we went to spend time with us. When his mother died, I had promised to do my best as a mother figure for him. And when he made the choice to move over here, I was really excited because I would have him all the time. He moved here. He found himself a church home. He gave himself to the Lord. And he enjoyed life. And he's always been a positive person in my life. I've never seen him handle things in a negative way. There's never a moment if I'm sad or I'm down. He always say things to just lift me up. And he did that for his mother. Even though his mother's cancer was incurable, he always kept her spirits high.
What do you know about Mr. Quiles' work history and kind of his background, employment background?
Oh, Mr. Quiles can do anything he put his mind to. He can work on cars. He can be a carpenter. He can be a mechanic. There's nothing that he could not teach himself to do. And he always had work. He can find work easily because he was so skillful.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your relationship has been like and what you know about of him since he's been incarcerated?
Even being here for 5 years, I've never seen him sad. I've never seen him cry. He's always so uplifting. I'm the crybaby. I'll cry on the phone with him. I'm sad, I'm upset, I'm angry. And he's like, Mom, it's going to be okay. I promise you it's going to be okay. And he never loses hope, ever.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I know you have kids, correct?
I do. I have
Heard
4.
from a few of them today.
Yes.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about the family dynamics as far as your family and with Mr. Quiles?
Yes. John always says he's the firstborn, so he makes my children really jealous. So he'll say, that's my mom. No, that's my mom. I'm the firstborn. You know, silly things like that. But they all get along as if they were all natural brothers. They all get along. He impacted my 2 younger kids. He taught them a lot of stuff. My youngest son couldn't ride his bike for years. And John came one time, and my son's never stopped riding his bike. But no one could teach him how to ride his bike but John. So he's impacted my children in such a positive way. He was their go-to person. He would build go-karts and teach them how to ride the go-karts, showing them what angles to turn, what not to do, just a lot of fun stuff. And he would educate them that education is the most important thing.
Can you share us a little bit about what Mr. Quiles means to you personally?
He's my everything. He's my light at the end of the tunnel. I go to him for everything. He always has special words for me. He always tells me, no matter what I'm going through, God is going to see me through everything. There's nothing that I can't overcome. And I look forward to hearing his voice every day. He is my connection to my late sister. My sister and him have a special bond, and I see that through him all the time. And when I see him, I see my sister. And I look forward to speaking to him every day, every opportunity that I get.
Can you tell us any other information you would like to provide to the jury today before we let you go?
Yes. I just wish everybody knew John like I knew John. John is such a warm, loving person. Everybody that comes across John have a special bond with him. He just has a natural love for people. And I just wish everybody was able to see that in him, because he's an amazing young man.
Can I have just a moment? The questions, Your Honor.
Ma'am, good to see you today. Thank you for your testimony. Sense any additional witnesses?
No, Your Honor. That's what he does.
All right, members of the jury, give me 15 minutes. I need to finalize some instructions with the attorneys, and then we'll go to closing arguments. It's no secret at this point, after closing arguments, I'll be able to dismiss the 4 alternate jurors. That's not a secret I can keep anymore. I'll see you back at 2:35-ish, and we'll go from there. Please remember, don't discuss the case among yourselves or each other, and we'll go from there. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on one second. I failed to let you know this. So when we go to the closing argument phase, the first 12 that are serving, that's when we got to take your devices from you. So if you need to contact loved ones, let them know. Just like as I told you last Thursday, we will be here as long as you guys want us to be here tonight to deliberate. We don't know when that decision will come. If you want a break when it come back tomorrow morning, like we talked about Thursday, we will do that as well. I'll give you further instructions. I'm mostly letting you know that if you have to contact a spouse, family, friend, whoever, to let them know you may be out of pocket for a while tonight, this is probably the chance for you to do so. The jury's outside our presence. I still have counsel of state defense, Mr. Quiles, present. I want to finalize these jury instructions. So, Ms. Michelle, I did look at 10, 16, 23, and 28 that you mentioned. They all do seem to be redundant. I tend to agree with you. I kind of did a keyword search. And the other things that are mentioned in those 4 circumstances are also mentioned otherwise. So if you guys are okay with that, I'll delete 10. I'll delete those 4 aggravating factors off the final jury instructions.
Yes, Judge, we agree.
And just for the record's clear, the defense agrees what I'm deleting is already encompassed in the other mitigating circumstances alleged in the instructions.
Correct, Your Honor, and that's why we suggested those to the court to be removed, because we do see them in other ones, and they are overlapping to other ones as well. So, yes, we agree.
Okay, so they are deleted. Other than that, the jury instructions seem to be in rather fine form. I do have in jury instruction, the verdict forms as well. I can go upstairs and I'll print copies of everything. Is there anything that either party wants to add regarding the instructions? Any objection to how the aggravating factors are listed, mitigating circumstances, or the additional instructions of how I phrase it for weighing the evidence, rules for deliberation, verdict, and submit the case to the jury?
Acceptable to the state, Your Honor.
Second, Judge.
And while the defense is looking at that, I noticed that you guys didn't call Joseph Quiles. I'm assuming that was a decision the defense made.
Yeah, he was having trouble getting on, and so instead of trying to wait and figure that out, Judge, we did not call him. We made that decision, yes, Judge.
Is he able to get on at all?
I know that when I asked them, I had already told them, they said that it was fine not to call him, so we will not be calling him, Judge.
When you said they, who's they?
The family that have been in contact with him to try and see if he would be getting on to Zoom.
Okay.
And we did discuss that with our client.
Okay.
We did let him know, and that's fine.
All right. And obviously, Mr. Quiles didn't testify in this penalty phase, just like he didn't do in the guilt phase. I don't see the necessity to inquire again of him in that regard, unless the defense thinks that's necessary. Obviously, if we, depending on what the next steps are, he always has a chance to address the sentence in court at the appropriate time, if that's what he decides to do.
Yes, Judge, that's fine. He knows he's not testifying, obviously, now, but we've discussed the option later with him as well. We don't expect that to be the case, but
So he's agreeing not to testify at this phase as well.
correct.
Okay, and you guys have talked to him about all that?
Yes, we have, Judge.
Okay, you've answered all his questions?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. So I'll let you look at the verdict for. I'm sorry, go ahead. Talk to your client if you need to.
Yes, Judge. I'm going to let Mr. Davis address the one issue that we had for the instructions. This may not be one at all, and then I'll find out what he wants to know. Yes, Judge, and just affirming everything that I just said as far as testimony and specifically about not calling his brother, just making sure that all of that was as I represented to the court.
And he's in agreement with that?
He is.
Okay. All right, we'll move forward with the jury instructions. Are there any objections to any of it from the defense at this point?
No, Your Honor. We were just looking up one other thing, but for now, there's nothing else to add.
So in total, you guys are in agreement with the jury instructions as prepared and as will be read to the jury verbatim. Otherwise, I know you raised an objection to the 6 aggravating factor regarding familial or custodial relationship.
Correct. And there was one other that we had discussed, but at this point, Judge, we don't have any other objections other than the ones that have already been raised.
Well, do you want to raise the thing that you guys are discussing so I'm aware of it?
Well, Judge, just in going over some of the things, just for purposes of the record, we would renew all our previous objections and arguments without any further argument, just to preserve those for purposes of the record, Your Honor. That's number one. Number two, we're looking into, brought to our attention, requesting for a mercy instruction, and I'm looking for it. I don't know as though I'm able to do so.
The standard instructions talk about that. If you, it's on page 8 of 15.
Right, and I was looking to see if there was anything else that could be expanded upon that. That's what I was looking for specifically, to see if there's any additional language that under the jury instructions or the rules that could be added, and that's what I was looking for.
Okay. I mean, it is included in here. It may not be as explicit as the defense request. These were just amended, I think, earlier this month.
Exactly.
Nothing stops you from arguing that, though, based off the law that I'm reading to the jury.
Right, and that's what we were looking for, just to make sure that we cover all our bases on that, Judge.
Okay. But nothing you're proposing at this point.
Nothing that I think we can propose that isn't already there.
Okay. And how about the verdict forms for count 1 and for count 2?
I'm sorry. We didn't see anything to object on that, Your Honor.
The only difference is, I think, in count 1, I have the HAC, the aggravating factor. Count 2 does not. Count 2 has the victim was less than 12. Count 1 does not. And both have the last aggravating factor. The victim was particularly vulnerable for 2 different reasons. So there's 5 aggravating factors alleged as to each victim. What I'll do is I'll go upstairs, I'll print everything, I'll come back out and we can commence closing arguments unless there's something else from the attorneys that I need to handle.
Not from the defense.
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, give me 5 minutes, I'll come back out.
Sir, Your Honor.